Hey 49ers fans, I'm Thomas Mott. Welcome into Chat Sports, and today, let's go ahead and go through a ton of 49ers mailbag questions here. You guys submitted these using the hashtag 49ers on a previous video earlier this week. We got like 50 plus comments, so I had to narrow it down to the top 10 questions. So here are the best questions that I found. If I missed it, don't worry, we do these every single week, so just submit a question on a later video. That way you can get your question in and hopefully answer it on the show. Starting off with Ron Tupu, I think. This was a common question. What's our cap space look like for next year? So I did some cap research on the 49ers. It's very, very interesting. Right now, you have about $18 million currently in free cap space. Now, that will change by the end of this season to about $11 to $14 million, depending on a couple of little, weird factors and incentives and bonuses that a lot of people are going to get because the Niners won the NFC West and they're going to be making a deep playoff run. So about going into the next, league year, the 2020 offseason, between $11 and $14 million in free cap space. Now, it's before you do a bunch of contract restructuring. So you could restructure some of the offensive linemen's contracts, you could restructure some of the running backs' contracts, you could restructure Jimmy Garoppolo's contract and free up a lot more, giving you enough money to go ahead and sign back some of your unrestricted free agents and also possibly dip into free agency as well. So basically, without getting into like super numbers, the cap situation is not crazy good like it was last year where you had like the top 3 in free cap space, but it's good enough to where you can re-sign your players and make some moves. Some of your notable 2020 free agents: Emmanuel Sanders, Jimmy Ward, Eric Armstead, Jason Verrett, Ronald Blair. These are all unrestricted guys. There are other restricted guys as well, but obviously you look at this list, Sanders, Armstead are two of the guys you're going to be needing to give some money to in order to retain them. Even Eric Armstead could be a guy that you could lose in free agency because he wants more money, and he's had a very, very good year. So the question basically is, are we good next year in terms of cap space? Yeah, we're good. Are we going to be able to go out there and sign every top free agent? No, you're not going to be able to. You got to focus on retaining your own people, but you should be able to do that once a bunch of other cap situations, cap moves, restructuring contracts are actually finished. So we'll have more on this. Obviously, we get into the offseason after they do restructure some things. But the free agency period should be very, very interesting for our 49ers. All right, YouTube ad coming up here. You guys know the drill. Go down, answer the question, the pinned comment down below. Who is the number 1 free agent player the 49ers need to re-sign? It could be Armstead, could be Sanders, could be someone else. So we know who and why. Comment section down below. All right, Mobile T135 asks, will we be using Witherspoon, Mosley, or a mix of both when we play in the divisional round? Okay, listen, we'll throw it up on the screen right now. Emmanuel Mosley versus Ahkello Witherspoon. Here are their stats, one for the other. Really, stats are one thing. Right now, I think you got to go with Emmanuel Mosley. He's playing a lot better than Ahkello Witherspoon. And Witherspoon's getting beat, it feels like, every single game, especially the past, 3 or 4 weeks. They'll probably start Witherspoon, honestly, because they trust him more, which is like an in-house thing. I don't, but they do. But I could also see a mix of getting both of those players in there. It's not like Emmanuel Mosley is not going to play any snaps in the divisional round. He will play some. I just think Witherspoon will play more than Mosley. But that's not what I do. I want more Emmanuel Mosley. You guys, I read the comments, want more Emmanuel Mosley as well. But apparently, for whatever reason, maybe it's the veteran status of Ahkello Witherspoon that keeps him in there. Maybe they like the plays that he's made earlier on in the season. I don't know. But I have a feeling it's going to be a lot more Witherspoon than Mosley, even though I would disagree. And you could be playing very good wide receivers if you get into the divisional round in terms of who gets into the divisional round. You could be playing the Seattle wide receivers again, who aren't great, but they're still good. They've beaten us before, way back during the first matchup. And then also the Viking wide receivers, if they beat the Saints, they are pretty good as well, Diggs and Thielen. So let's figure that out, but we'll see what happens in the, not this Sunday, but obviously next Sunday. All right, question, type M down below if you think Mosley should start at the cornerback spot. Type W down below if you think Witherspoon should start at the cornerback spot. I'm curious if this is going to break down. Again, both are similar. I would just go with Mosley. He's been playing a lot better over the past couple of weeks. Okay, Owen asked, which NFC team, this one was asked a lot, which NFC East, or not NFC East, NFC team would you least like to play against? Personally, I would like to avoid Seattle and New Orleans. Okay, so in the divisional round, the 49ers will play the lowest winning seed because they are the 1 seed. So here are your lowest winning seeds: Philadelphia, Seattle, or Minnesota. They cannot play New Orleans at all in the divisional round because New Orleans wins, the 3 seed goes to the 2 seed, which will be on the road at Green Bay. So you either get to play Philadelphia, Seattle, or the Vikings. Now, you can make an argument for wanting to play all 3. You can make an argument for not wanting to play all 3. Most people will look at Philadelphia and say, hey, the Eagles' weakest squad. Carson Wentz has no weapons this year. They're injured. They're banged up. I want them. Here is the argument against Philadelphia. They would have momentum. Philadelphia's won 4 in a row. They would have upset Seattle in the divisional round. Underdogs on the road are scary. Philadelphia last year, they upset the Bears in the wild card round. They went to the Saints. They were massive underdogs and were literally an Alshon Jeffrey catch away from beating the New Orleans Saints. Philadelphia would be scary because they have momentum. Seattle, do you really want Seahawks Part 3? I mean, it'd be fun, it'd be interesting, the entertainment value would be there, but you played each other 3 times, you split it, or it would be 3 times, you split the first 2, Seattle would be dangerous, and then Minnesota has a ton of weapons, right? That would be the deal with Minnesota. They probably have the most offensive weapons, especially with Dalvin Cook being healthy, if he is, than Seattle and Philadelphia. There's an argument for all 3, and there's an argument against all 3 as well. I think you take Philadelphia just because they would be the weakest on paper. You probably would not want the Seahawks, would be your least favorite choice, and then the Vikings would be number 2, kind of in between that, in my opinion. Question for you guys next week: who do you want to play, Philadelphia, Seattle, or the Vikings? Let me know in the comment section down below. Regardless who we play, though, always bet on the game with our friends at BetDSI, chatsports.com/bet. Use the promo code 49ers for a 120% deposit bonus whenever you first sign up. All right, moving on here. Steven Reynolds, he asked, I've been watching videos on YouTube, that's good because we're on YouTube, about how everyone thinks that the Saints will upset the Niners at home in the NFC Championship game. In your professional opinion, thank you, do you think that could happen? Yes, it could happen, but I'm not sure it will happen. Here, I will say this, though. Out of all the NFC teams, this kind of goes back to the last question. In the end, because you'll play divisional and NFC title game, you can play any of the other 5 in the playoffs. Who is your least favorite team to play? Who do you not want to play? For me, it is the Saints. You've beaten Green Bay before. Green Bay's offense does not scare me. As long as you stop Aaron Jones, you can stop the Green Bay offense. Philadelphia's offense does not scare me either. The Vikings and Kirk Cousins do not scare me at really that much. And Seattle, they're probably number 2. The Saints are the team that I think could give the Niners the biggest trouble because they have a ton of talent everywhere. They can run the football. They pass protect very, very well. They obviously have one of the best receivers, if not the best receiver in the NFL, Michael Thomas, and they have a guy named Drew Brees. You might have heard of him. The Saints are a scary football team. They can travel on the road. It'd be a warmer weather game, which Drew Brees likes. That would be the team I would think could upset the 49ers. Again, the Vikings, I mean, sure, they can. So can Philadelphia, so can the Packers, and so can the Seahawks. But the one team that scares me the most is the Saints. Now, will they beat the 49ers? No. Listen, you see the comparison of what happened in that last game, 48-46. The 49ers won in a very, very close matchup. It'd be a thrilling NFC title game, but I do think the 49ers would come out on top. But I will say this, though. If you're asking who is the best team in the NFC postseason besides the 49ers, it is the New Orleans Saints. Count on that. I would bet money on that right now. Before we move on, we are almost at 12,000 subscribers. If you've not subscribed yet, I don't know what you're doing. We're in a playoff run here. Help me out. Click the red subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. It literally takes you taking your mouse and like moving it down a little bit and clicking. That's it. Not a big deal. That way you're notified, and that way you know when we post new videos, which is like every single day here on the channel because we're growing really, really fast. Red subscribe button, click it now. Moving on. Maple6774 asked, do you think the Eagles have a chance against Seattle? I read this question, I went, wait, why is this question being asked in a 49er video? And then I went, oh, well, if the Eagles win, then that's most likely the team you're playing in the divisional round. And if Seattle wins, you're for sure, unless the Vikings win, playing Seattle in the divisional round. Well, you should be looking at the wild card weekend doing this. You should technically root for the Saints because, well, okay, let me rephrase that. How about you root for the Vikings and then you root for the Eagles? Those are your 2 teams you're rooting for this wild card weekend in the NFC, because that way you would play the Vikings and then maybe in the future play the Eagles. You want the lowest winning seeds to win, obviously, but in terms of Seattle versus Philadelphia, you want the Eagles to upset the Seahawks, because the Seahawks, again, much like the Saints, are a dangerous team in the NFC. Philadelphia is dangerous with momentum. They're not dangerous with talent, and they obviously have to go on the road after the wild card round because they are a 4 seed. It's a 4:40 kickoff. It's on Sunday. You'll be watching the game. The Seahawks are a 1-point favorite. Over-under is 4 and is 45. We are rooting for the Eagles. We are rooting for the Vikings. Just get that in your head now as we go into Wild Card Weekend, because you want the easiest matchup. Really, what will most likely happen, in my opinion, Eagles upset Seattle. I think that's actually going to happen. I think the Saints take care of the Vikings. So then the Vikings go play the Packers, and the Eagles go ahead and play us in the divisional round, either on Saturday or Sunday of division round weekend. Moving on, these are selling like hotcakes. I'll throw up the link one more time. Chatsports.com/NFC West will get you one of these sweet "The West is Not Enough" official on-field, in-locker room 49er t-shirts. They're on sale. They're going on like hotcakes right now. Chatsports.com/NFC West. Grab you a t-shirt because you know, I know, the West is not enough. We want the whole thing. Moving on. Other questions here. We'll do a couple more. Wilson Dormany, I think, sorry. If we lose the Super Bowl, do you think Jim Harbaugh will get Coach of the Year instead of Kyle Shanahan? Well, if you lose it to Jim Harbaugh, then sure. Or if you don't get to the Super Bowl and the Ravens do, then yes. Here are your basic 4 top head coaching candidates for NFL Coach of the Year. Kyle Shanahan, obviously, us. John Harbaugh, obviously, the Ravens. Sean McDermott is a candidate as well with the Bills, and Doug Peterson has become a sneaky dark horse candidate for the Philadelphia Eagles because of what he's done with basically nothing. If you look at this list, if you're thinking nationally, John Harbaugh is going to win it, okay? I know that we have our love for Kyle Shanahan, and in my opinion, he should win because obviously he's turned around what was a bad football team to a good football team, but the national media loves Lamar Jackson. They love the Ravens, essentially blowing up their entire system to put it around Lamar Jackson and actually winning with it as well. I think Harbaugh's the front runner nationally. For being honest, Harbaugh, Shanahan 2, McDermott 3, Peterson 4, but do not count out Doug Peterson and what he's done in Philadelphia to get the Eagles from 5-7. They got blown out by Dallas to actually being a playoff team and really have a shot against Seattle. So, if we lose the Super Bowl and it's to the Ravens, then sure, it's probably Harbaugh. If we don't get there, and of course the Ravens do, it's probably Harbaugh. But I think Kyle Shanahan should at least have a legitimate shot. I just don't think he will because the national media is obsessed with the Baltimore Ravens. Okay, would it make sense? This is from EMA Beats. Would it make sense for Saleh, to stay so he can claim a few potential championships and accolades instead of rushing to leave? 1 year of success with us isn't enough, and the NFL teams are desperate, so he needs integral moves. I mean, I'm sure he'll be getting some more money from us anyway. This comes on the stem of my video yesterday talking about the Browns are interviewing Saleh, who knows how to mispronounce his last name, our defensive coordinator for their head coaching position. Just because he's interviewing does not mean he's going to be signed, but whatever EMA Beats is saying here makes a lot of sense. If I was Saleh, I would wait because I don't want Cleveland, right? Now, if I was offered the Panthers or the Giants or a better situation, I honestly would consider taking it. If a team is willing to give you the keys to their kingdom, you have to accept. I honestly think if the Browns offered him the job, I don't think they will. If the Browns offered him the job, he probably takes it because, yes, being a defensive coordinator on a good team is a lot of fun. But the goal is to be an NFL head coach for the majority of these guys. I think if he gets an offer, he goes. I just don't think the Browns are going to offer him the job because they're going to offer it to McCarthy, to Josh McDaniels, or Urban Meyer. Those are the top 3 right now for the Cleveland Browns. So in the end, I think our defensive coordinator, Robert Saleh stays. I think he stays at least 1 more year, but he's on his way out. He's going to be a head coach at some point in his career. He's just too young and too good not to. The question is, will it be this year or next year? I say next year. Listen, type S down below to give our defensive coordinator, Robert Saleh, some love. Just type S. That's all I need. Comment S, give him some love. That way maybe he stays because I'm sure he watches these videos, right? Okay, moving on. Final question here. TTTG50, TTTG, long name, asks, why do you think all the ESPN and Fox Sports shows never talk about the 49ers? Drives me crazy. They talk more about the Cowboys and Browns than us. Okay, I picked this one because I actually know the answer because I used to work at Fox Sports as an intern, not really working, but as an intern, on their New York show, First Things First, on FS1. Nick Wright, Chris Carter. You probably heard of the show. It's the morning show on TV on FS1. I was their spring intern in the spring of 2018, I think? No. Spring of 2017. No, it was the spring of 2018. Sorry, let me get that right. So I worked hand in hand, right next to, was in the meetings every single day, production meetings with Chris Carter and Nick Wright and Jenna Wolf, and we talked sports every single day. I asked this exact question. I said, listen, this is happening, why aren't we talking about it? This is happening, why aren't we talking about it? And Nick Wright literally turned to me and said, Thomas, listen, the big name teams, the big name stories drive ratings. The Cowboys drive ratings. The Patriots drive ratings. Right now, believe it or not, the Cleveland Browns drive ratings. And Fox Sports and ESPN can monitor how their shows rate every single day to know what people care about. They can even get down to the exact segment. They can say that segment worked, that segment did not. So when we would build the board at Fox Sports, they're building it based on what the national ratings do. So we might hate the Cowboys. We might not like the Browns. We may get tired of hearing about Tom Brady every single day, but that is what drives ratings, and that's what they do. It's not like the national media, whether it's First Take or Undisputed or First Things First or Colin Cowherd and the Herd are talking about what they personally want to talk about. Now, maybe Skip Bayless talking about the Cowboys is what he wants to do. They talk about what you want to listen to. And even though you and I want to talk about the 49ers, nationally, they don't rate as well. That's just a simple fact. They do not rate as well. And when they're talking about TV, they do what gets you the money. And that is exactly why it is all Cowboys, because even though we don't like them, they're America's team. It's all New England. It's all hot topics, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, the Cleveland Browns, Baker Mayfield, that is what drive ratings. I've been in those meetings, I've been in those rooms, and that is exactly how they plan their shows. It's not what the hosts want to talk about, it's what makes them the most money driving the national ratings, and that is why our 49ers are not talked about as much. Now, they are talked about because they have to be, because they're the number 1 seed, but as you and I both know, the Cowboys, Jason Garrett, right, Dak Prescott, those are the names that get all the love instead of us, and this is the exact reason why, and I say this, and I wanted to pick this because I've been in those meetings, I've asked the hot shots at Fox Sports why, and that is the reason. So now rest assured, they don't hate us, they just don't think we rate very well, and trust me, they have the analytics to know if we rate very well. Thankfully, we rate well here on YouTube, and so to fight the powers, not fight the powers, but to show ESPN and Fox that we, of course, are a big deal in San Francisco, go ahead and click the red subscribe button, build the channel, because we at least talk about them here. So if you don't like what they do nationally, like what they do here, red subscribe button, and that will help us out tremendously. There you go. How about that? I went overtime here, but I don't care because I want to get you guys as many questions as possible on our 49ers Only Chat Sports YouTube channel. Really appreciate all of the questions. We'll see what happens this weekend. We'll see who we play. Plenty more to come. Of course, we always do every single day at this channel. For Chat Sports, I'm Thomas Mott, signing off. Enjoy the rest of your day.